Hello, welcome to our special conversation quick look. I guess that's what I'm going to call this, with our guest, Angie Albright, filmmaker, and what else do you do, Angie?
Oh, a little bit of this, a little bit of that.
And we're here talking with you about the movie Jaws for a few reasons. One, for the purpose of our show, Jaws is going to be kind of the linchpin for a lot of what happens throughout the 70s in giant monster movies. And I thought you were the perfect person to talk to about it because of
Yes.
your deep and abiding love of Steven Spielberg and
Yes.
especially kind of his genre works. Can you give our listeners a little bit of background about yourself and your experience with movies and what you like and why you do what you do?
Yeah. So I've been obsessed with movies pretty much my whole life. My mom always made the joke that she didn't have a babysitter for us. We had movies whenever she went. um, and that kind of just stuck. And I went to film school, was in the industry for a while. But yeah, like you said, I am totally a fan of Steven Spielberg. I know it's very cliche, but I don't care. I really love him, and I love all of his movies. Yeah. So there, I like a lot of different kind of stuff, but stuff like Jaws and Jurassic Park, those are totally up my alley.
Well, I mean, Steven Spielberg did only invent the modern blockbuster, which still dominates the film landscape
Yes, that's why I'm
today.
like, of course, like it just everyone pretty much has something they like about Steven Spielberg. So, but yeah, I
So
love him.
we are here today to talk about Jaws. It is his second theatrical feature, third feature overall. He did Sugarland Express, and he did Duel, which was re-edited from a TV movie to be a theatrical feature after Jaws, and then he did Jaws. Um, what's your kind of background with this film?
Oh gosh. Well, I watched it a lot as a kid. And
Mhm.
then I grew up on the Gulf Coast, and my dad's a fisherman. So, and he's grown up along the coast pretty much his whole life. He's grown up on the East Coast, West Coast, and then Gulf Coast. And so, um, my dad's always been obsessed with sharks. So it's just been like a movie that's a staple in my family.
Mhm.
And even though it should have scared me to not go in the water, I never really did. I've always really liked sharks, and I still watch it, and I like sharks. But yeah, it definitely used to scare me a little bit as a kid, though. But I still got in the water.
For me, I saw this the summer after second grade,
Oh dang.
um, and what it made me fall in love with the ocean, like the concept of the ocean
Hmm.
and sailing stuff. And I started reading Moby Dick in third grade, and I read it throughout third grade, the next summer, and fourth grade because it is a very big book and full of very big concepts.
Yes.
Um, but that was inspired by Jaws. I'm sure you know this little bit of trivia, but Steven Spielberg's uncredited rewrite for this movie went by having him watching a screening of the 1956 Moby Dick starring Gregory Peck and laughing obnoxiously in the theater at the bad special effects to the point that other people were leaving.
Oh my God, no, I didn't know that. That's awesome.
But Gregory Peck, he hated that movie, hated his performance in it. So he bought the rights when they were going to lapse, and he withheld it from circulation for a very long, for like 20 years. So he would not let Spielberg use the scenes from the movie.
Oh wow.
Uh, I this movie is so tied to Moby Dick in my mind. I've been doing a
Yeah.
reread because I'm talking about it, and one of the other reasons we're talking about Jaws is because of how it influenced future giant monster movies of the 70s, specifically Dino De Laurentiis's disastrous King Kong remake 2 years later. Uh, Do you have any? Have you seen that ever?
I actually haven't.
Not
No.
good. Uh, I'll go into more detail about how and why it's not good when we get to
Uh-huh.
that point on the show. I Courtney watched it with me while I was writing uh, my script, and we had to
Mhm.
watch it in two parts. It's only 2 hours long, but Courtney was so overwhelmed by how bad the first hour was
That's
that
bad.
we had. She said not even Jessica Lange and Jeff Bridges could save it.
Wow.
She did like the second half better. Uh,
Take the intermission, take some time.
well, it took a week. It was a week in between
Oh.
the first
Okay,
and
a
the second
very
hour.
long intermission.
We went to work a few times. Walked the dog. Uh,
Oh my god.
so it's rough. It's not without its charm, but it's rough. Uh, so the there's an online film critic I enjoy. His name is Scott Ashlin. He runs a website called 1000 Misspent Hours and Counting.
Hmm.
Um, and regular listeners of the show, if they've paid attention, might have heard me bring him up before. But he often compared uh, Jaws to Moby Dick, not the work, but the whale itself, and Dino De Laurentiis, the Captain Ahab.
Mhm.
Um, because De Laurentiis spent basically the rest of the 70s trying to make a creature feature that outdid Jaws.
Mm.
He did King Kong in 76, and then Orca and The White Buffalo in 77. Those are two movies, by the way. It's not Orca and The White
Just
Buffalo.
yeah.
So that kind of, as I was doing my research, hammered back in for me the connection between Jaws and Moby Dick.
Mhm.
Um, but that's me. I'm going on. You're the guest here. Uh, so with Jaws in particular, you said it was a your family is coastal essentially,
Yeah,
and you love sharks.
I do.
What we are going to also have you on hopefully for Jurassic Park because that
Yes.
also heavily influences giant monster movies in the 90s.
Oh, hell yeah.
Um, what do you think of the kind of attempt? I'm not sure how many of the movies you are familiar with, but the attempt that Hollywood kind of scrambled to cash in on Jaws with things like Grizzly and all these Italian shark movies.
Mhm.
Are you familiar at all with those?
A little bit, because my dad watches any and every shark movie. So, I've seen a lot. I don't remember all the names, but I've seen quite a few.
There is an Italian one from actually I think the early 90s
Mhm.
that was released as Cruel Jaws or Jaws 5 in some parts of the world.
Wow.
That is almost a very poor shot for shot remake and even steals some effects footage
What?
and John Williams music, not just from Jaws, but also from Star Wars.
What? Oh my god.
The main characters are pulling their ship out of the bay. It's playing the main theme from Star Wars. It's
That's awesome.
and that movie was unavailable widely until recently because Universal and Lucasfilm
Mhm.
uh, basically sued it into oblivion.
That's what I was about to ask. I was like, it had to have been soon. Like, what the heck?
There was another one in 1978, I want to say, called The Last Shark, the Italian one, L'ultimo
Mhm.
squalo, because shark is squallow in Italian, and I think that's lots of fun. Uh,
Squallow.
Squallow,
That's a fun
but
word.
uh, that one got sued right out of the gate. I think it played for a week, and then Universal, you know,
Shut it down.
shut it down. Uh, where do you stand on the Jaws sequels? First of all, have you seen How have you seen the Jaws sequels? Which ones have you seen, and what's your opinion on them?
I think I've only seen up to the second one.
Okay.
I actually discovered yesterday that there was so many other ones. I mean, I knew there was a few other ones, but I found like the whole collection online, and I was surprised I hadn't seen them all.
Because there's four total.
Yeah, it was like I think the collection I was looking at, they added like an extra one that wasn't really Jaws related, but anyways. I mean, for me, I definitely haven't seen the second one since I was a kid. Um, I just remember being like, okay, another shark is here. Okay.
Hmm.
Like, um, but yeah, I mean, so I don't really remember too much about it, but I know my dad loved it. It didn't, but he just, it doesn't matter. Like he can watch anything about sharks, and he's like,
Right.
this is like a masterpiece.
Well, in
Uh,
the second one, Roy Scheider's line as he kills the shark by um, this time it's an electrical cable that he finds in the ocean.
oh,
He tricks the shark into biting it.
oh, that's right.
The
See, I
line
remember
is
that.
"say ah" instead of "smile, you son of a bitch."
I love
Um,
that.
say ah.
Say ah. What a line.
Why? But either way, it's not very good.
Yeah, that's what I
And
gathered.
but it's fun.
Yeah.
I think the second one is a lot of fun, and I think the third one is too. Do you know what happens in the third one?
No, that's what I was about to ask. I was like, so is there just like a new shark every movie and or well, how does that go?
Yes. Yes.
Interesting.
So early in the second movie, there's a gas spill
Hmm.
in Amity Bay, and the shark catches fire on one side of its face.
Oh, I think I remember
So
that
the
actually.
shark throughout the second movie has this huge uh, burn on one side of its face, and that was kind of the second. People accuse of the first Jaws of just being this huge waste of a B movie, like a like this could have been made for $15 million by Roger Corman.
Hmm.
Um, but instead we're spending, you know, three times that with this untested director. Uh,
Yeah.
but the second one really is just a B movie. Like
Okay, I love that.
we have the it's I think the second one's worth a watch. The third one they move locations. They're not in Amity anymore.
Oh,
They're in SeaWorld. I
wait,
think
what?
San Diego. Yeah. Or
See,
Florida. I can't remember which. And
I
when
definitely
you,
haven't seen that one.
I have all four of them on Blu-ray. Um,
Of course.
thankfully, the second one, uh, thankfully, the second, third, and fourth, I did not have to buy individually. They all came in one box set.
Oh, nice.
Uh, I would not have, I would not have bought, certainly not the fourth one on Blu-ray. I say that, but I have some pretty bad movies on Blu-ray
Yeah,
that I
I'm like,
spent too
really?
much money on. You know this. This is one of the
Yeah.
things we talk about.
I'm like, would you?
The back of the Blu-ray says, "In Jaws 3, tourists marvel at the new undersea kingdom, a maze of underwater glass tunnels that allow visitors to get up closer to marine life than ever before, until they get an unexpected visit from a very angry shark." Um, and the main characters are the Brody's sons,
Oh, okay.
Sean and Michael, and they are played by Dennis Quaid
Oh, no way.
and someone I don't think he's credited, and Richard Matheson of all people is
Oh.
credited as a co-writer on that one with Carl Gottlieb, who wrote the screenplay for the first Jaws.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and you know Richard Matheson, like Twilight Zone, and
Yeah.
um, He hated it. Everyone involved with it hated it. But it was also in 3D. It was Jaws 3D.
Wait, that's amazing.
There were a lot of questionable 3D effects. I think it's also a good time. The finale of the movie is Dennis Quaid and his girlfriend are really worried about uh the dolphins at SeaWorld that they train.
Hmm.
And it's a big suspenseful moment to see if the dolphins survived. That's the finale.
Oh my gosh. When did that come out?
That in 1983.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And it's I think it's also a lot of fun. Just like the second one. It's dumber than either of the two preceding Jaws movies.
Hmm. I know.
And
I kind of want to just like watch all of them in one sitting one day.
you'll have fun until you get to Jaws 4 or Jaws the Revenge.
Yeah, that was the other one I saw, Jaws the Revenge. I
Okay,
was
so
like,
you've
what?
seen Jaws the Revenge.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, that is so the let me read the synopsis because that one is um in Jaws the Revenge, Brody's wife seeks refuge in the Bahamas, only to find herself reliving the horrors of her past and decides to take matters into her own hands. This time, it's personal.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that is one of them I've seen.
Yes, so Michael Caine is her love interest.
Yeah.
He's a pilot in the Bahamas, and he is involved with her for some reason and somehow, and the shark chased her from Amity to the Bahamas for revenge, apparently.
Wow.
Uh, and the film originally ended with her stabbing the shark with the the front of the sinking ship they were on.
Oh, oh my gosh.
And
Yes.
you've seen this?
Yes, that's why I'm like, I definitely, as soon as you said like Michael Caine, I was like, yeah, this is for sure the one of the
Yeah.
ones I've seen with my dad.
And
Like,
you know that they changed the ending because audiences found the shark slowly sinking while impaled on the front of a ship boring.
like not
Uh,
enough.
so they have, after she stabs it with the front of the ship, they have the shark explode somehow.
That's awesome. They're like,
Yeah.
you know, when in doubt, just make it explode.
So yes, that's uh, Jim Henson's motto. That's what he'd say with the Muppets, that when they weren't sure how to end something, just someone blows up.
It's kind of perfect, really.
Is. But now that we've talked about the bad ones, let's just briefly go over what are some of the things about the first Jaws that stand out to you?
So I I know like part of the reason why we don't see the shark that much is because of actual like problems they had trying to
Hmm.
film the shark. Um, but I really loved that. I like it takes a while. I like when things just take a while to show up. Um, and rewatching it, like I really love this one part where like part of the a dock came off and it was like
Yes.
swimming with the shark and then the dock like turned around and that's how you knew it was coming. I don't know, just something you didn't even see the shark. And something about that was like creepy and I loved it. Yeah, I mean it took like a whole what I think like an hour until you actually see the shark.
Yes.
And I guess like as a kid, obviously, I'm not thinking about stuff like that. Like I'm thinking I'm seeing the shark the whole time, and then watching it again, I'm like, oh wow, it actually takes a while to see it,
Yeah.
and I like that.
Of the You always feel the shark. You
Yeah.
feel it. It's a big presence, and I think that's something like in the original King Kong that the remake didn't touch on at all
Hmm.
was the you feel Kong's presence when he's not on screen. It's like that joke in The Simpsons. When Poochie's not on screen, everyone should be asking, "Where's Poochie?" Um, but that it's organic. It's you feel the shark
Yeah.
even when the shark is off screen, and everyone is asking, "Where's the shark?" Because it is the catalyst. The shark attacks are what's moving the story along.
Mm-hmm.
I think one of the things I really loved about Jaws and still do is the you keep pace with the characters so much. By the time
Yeah.
you're in that final confrontation in broad daylight, that's maybe the last 20 minutes of the movie.
Yeah.
It is you're exhausted, but you want to see it through to the end. And I think
Yeah.
that's one of the strongest parts of it. Like from the drinking sequence on the boat
Mm-hmm.
through to the end of the movie, it feels like one long scene.
Yeah, it does.
The movie just feels like, even though there's wonderful camera work, it feels like you're on a very tense static shot, because in terms of the action, you kind of are.
Yeah. And it just carries out. And I like that also this it ends right after it too. Like there's
Yes,
no big like celebration or there's nothing else. Like I just like that it was them like going away from it all. I really like the ending.
I love the end credits of you're from the beach and you're seeing them swim to shore, um, and they get there and then it starts to go black and the credits are done.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always thought more movies should have end credits like that over the action.
Yeah.
I've written for myself and no one else a screen adaptation of the Flannery O'Connor novel The Violent Bear It Away,
Mm-hmm.
which ends with a child crying on a grave
Wow.
in front of a
Okay.
burnt house.
Uh-huh.
Um, and in my little adaptation, the way I have it written out at the end is for the credits to, instead of rolling up, roll down in white text outlined in gray as the camera zooms back from the kid playing a song called "Take Care of All of My Children."
That sounds
Uh,
really sad.
but but it's in my mind. I'm just thinking of the end credits to
Mm-hmm.
Jaws,
Yeah.
where, but instead of where Jaws has the action coming toward you and the camera before fading out, be pulling the camera back. I'm never gonna get to make this movie. It was just for fun that I wrote
I
the.
really like that though. I agree. There's something to having like credits. I don't know, not just be like a black screen, and it's always so interesting when there's actual stuff still happening, especially when it's like continuing the movie basically.
Yes, like it's not
Yeah.
something you need, but it gives us. I think the
Yeah.
reason Jaws could get away with shark blows up, they swim away, is because you get a sense of closure
Mhm.
by seeing them reach the shore during the credits.
Yeah.
But
Totally.
you're the filmmaker. Uh, is there anything else you want to say before we call it a night here?
I will say this because I found this quote and I thought it was funny. Because I felt I don't know, it's very accurate of the movie.
Hmm.
Um, that Steven Spielberg said that whenever they got rid of the shark, because they had, they kept failing with the animatronic and everything, and it was really hard to film it. He said, I started making a Hitchcock movie instead of a Godzilla movie. I feel
Yes,
like I feel like that's very true. It could have been just like a more of a monster movie, and then now it has like all of this. I mean, we have like the shot that's like literally from Vertigo, in Jaws. That's
yes,
super,
yes. That
yeah. And I
zoom
just
in while the camera pulls
yes,
out at the same time. It's
it's such a
beautiful.
fun. It's so fun every time. Like I'll see a movie now that does it. I'm like, oh, I love it. But I saw that quote and I had to write it down because I was like, oh, That's funny because of Godzilla.
There, there's a great documentary on it's on the DVD even for Jaws. It's just called The Making of Jaws, I think. It was on a
Hmm.
two tape VHS back when I was a kid.
Nice.
Um, and the second tape was this documentary. I think it was called The Shark is Working. Um, but it's wonderful, and I think if anyone's interested more in the history of Jaws, you should seek that out. I think I found it on YouTube once.
I want to watch it because just like reading stuff about it, and I did a project on Steven Spielberg in school, so I knew some stuff back then too. But it's just I'm always learning something new about the making of Jaws, and it's really interesting.
Spielberg himself was a very talented artist. He did a lot of his own storyboarding.
Yeah.
I don't know if he still does, but his one of his storyboards for Jaws before they knew the shark was never going to work was literally the shark popping out at the beginning toward the
Yeah.
camera and then pulling the girl down with her, across the mouth. And
See,
it
and
just didn't work.
I just think there's something so much scarier about not seeing it right away. For
Yeah.
me, like I think because I don't know, your brain is trying to like imagine what it's like and everything, and it's a little
I think
spooky.
being, I have some problems with him sometimes, a lot of
Hmm.
times. But in his he has this wonderful nonfiction book called Dance Macabre where he kind of breaks down how he
Hmm.
thinks about horror. And one of the first things he talks about is the monster behind the door, and it's never going to be as scary as what you
Yeah.
imagine. So the longer you can build that up,
Yeah.
uh, the more effective it's going to be when you have to reveal it.
Yeah.
Well,
Also,
Angie,
can I
oh, go ahead.
just?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
sorry.
go ahead, go
Super
ahead.
quick say, I don't remember there being such a scary jump scare. With the
Which
when he saw the head when he was when when Hooper was underwater. I don't know why it like actually scared the crap out of me. And I'm like, why didn't I remember that? Oh my god, it got me really good. I just had to say that. I had to own up to it.
it's effective.
Yeah, it really
It's effective.
was.
The timing is great.
It is.
Uh, well, I will let you go after I have one more question for you, Angie.
Yeah.
Uh, any recommendations for people who couldn't get enough of Jaws?
Oh god. I mean, I'm not trying to like show how obsessed I am with his movies, but I mean, watching it again, I'm just like, man, this shot reminds me of Jurassic Park. And I just think Jurassic Park is such a good movie. And I know it's not shark related, but I mean, just the vibes. It has the same vibes. And Jurassic Park's a classic. But as far as shark movies, I say for me, the stupider ones, the better. I just watched a
Hmm.
trailer the other night of it called Six-Headed Shark Attack or something like that. And I was like, I am interested. I want to watch this.
That is the third or fourth in a series.
I know
Uh,
because I saw a two-headed one and then I kept scrolling and I saw six-headed. I'm like, okay, I gotta sit down and watch all of these
yeah,
now.
one
So
head
yeah.
at some point. Well, Angie, I will go ahead and recommend Orca, the Richard
Yes.
Harris starring film uh, about an orca. Richard Harris does not play the orca, by the way, uh, but it is a Jaws cash-in that is has a 9% on Rotten Tomatoes and is gross and cheap and stupid, and I love it.
Amazing. I think I've
Um,
actually might have seen this one. Like the more you were
well,
talking about it, I was like, wait, I remember this.
and with everything happening today in this world of ours with
Yes.
the orcas, it's more relevant now than ever. Uh,
I feel like it's more accurate than what any shark could do in a shark attack movie.
all right. Well, Angie, do you have any public social medias you'd like to share? Any projects going on outside of the workaday 9 to 5?
Nothing right now, but maybe someday I'll post something. But I'm just happy to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me on.
I'm very happy to talk to you about this. And I heard that some writer sent you something to maybe adapt into a short.
Yes, it is true. This is true information. I have the script right here.
Some tall, wavy-haired Adonis.
Yeah, just some guy.
Okay, Angie, thank you so much for coming on. We'll definitely have you back on when we talk about Jurassic Park to lead into the 90s and what happened
Yes.
with monster movies at that time. And just really appreciate you.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much.
Yeah.